What's up, Matt?
Yo, yo, yo.
You
I think my stuff's still spinning.
what's spinning?
I think my broadcast is still being sent. So
Okay, yeah, no worries. We'll wait. We're gonna launch some stuff. We'll chat here for a second. Um,
I think my theme for the day is going to be um, everybody seems to be focused on production and supply chain, and my focus is on demand. Everything, all the production and all the housing expectations is predicated upon demand remaining strong like it is. I think we're in for a consumer sentiment sudden change of pace.
yeah, I mean, we still are dealing with. I fashion it to a fraternity party, right? Printing money. So you go to a party in college, and it's a one kegger when you're just printing normal money. But all of a sudden, the last 2 years we went through, it was a 150 kegger, and
Yeah,
it went from 8 o'clock in the afternoon till 8 the next morning. And everybody woke up at noon the next day with just a major hangover from so much cash being around, right? And I think we're kind of entering that phase, the wake up.
yeah, and I kind of think another factor is if you and your wife are going out to dinner and you're going to go to a restaurant, you don't have a reservation, and you go stand in line, you go say, "Yeah, I need a table for two," and they said, "Well, it's going to be 3 hours."
Yeah.
Yeah, what are you going to do? You're going to wait?
Well,
No, sir.
kind of like when you and I were in Omaha, and we walk in and they're like, "There'll be a wait," and you look around and there's 25 open tables and 4 people sitting there.
Yeah, so what's the deal?
Yeah,
The same thing is like you go somewhere, when you got kids, for example, and you go to dinner and you go like, well, it's going to be a 45-minute wait. And you go, well, that ain't going to work because my kid's going to be climbing up the wall. So you just leave. So I think the same thing's going to happen with housing. When you start telling people you got a 50-week wait for windows and a 30-week wait for doors, they're going to say, well, screw it. I'll just wait.
yeah.
Wait till it catches up.
It's also the we'll get into this too. It's also the amount of people who's buying houses. Everybody thinks it. I think you and I had the conversation talking to people that I know saying, "Hey, do you think it's a good idea to buy a second or third home right now?" I was talking to
Yeah, if you look at the average price of homes, it's clearly mover uppers and second homers. It's not first time buyers. And I was telling the guy told me asked me the other day, said, "What about those 2 million immigrants?" I said, "Well, I don't see 2 million immigrants on the sidewalk with 250,000 bucks in the bank, ready to buy a house. Going, no, just hook me up. I'm ready to go." But that's why I don't think there's just strong demand. I think it's more a desire, just because of circumstances and free money, COVID panic, all that kind of stuff.
so let's kick it off. This is Lunch with Lumbermen with Matt Lehman, Lehman's Lumber Guide, and Ashley Buckled, MX Materials Exchange. We are the first, the best digital B2B exchange, matching buyers and sellers, creating a digital environment that was never available in the lumber building products industry, and shaking hands and kissing babies, all the good stuff. So we're loving it, Matt. I read your guide this morning, and I'd like to start out. We could get into talking about all the same things we've talked about, but you had a good point. Let's talk about a few things here, and then go into what you were talking about, demand. So I liked reading about the housing demand, opportunistic or desire. Right? You kind of went through 2 years ago. There was not as big of a desire to buy houses. We got a whole bunch of people wanting to move from urban areas farther out. And I will say the one thing I'm seeing now, my train is more full, and people actually want to come back to work, and there are offices still that people work out of, although they may want to sit around the house more and work from there. There's a lot more people coming back. And, Greg Riley said a couple of weeks ago, so COVID kind of kicked this off. What happens when COVID's over and people want to get outside of their house and don't feel as confined? That's a little bit I read about in Another Dimension. Does that make sense, Matt?
Yeah, and from the very beginning, if you think about the whole reason for deck expansions and things, backyards expansions, dads were at home and they go, oh, great, I get to work from home for a while. Next thing you know, you got a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old wanting you to play chutes and ladders all day long, and your wife's telling you, can you watch the kids while she goes to get her nails done? And it's not the office environment. And men, I mean this in a chauvinistic kind of way too, but men like to go to the office to get away from home. It's not that they don't love their families, but that's not what their life is cut out to be like. It's not what they want for themselves. And
that's not why I do it, Matt.
I'm sure it's not. Yeah.
And on the flip side, ladies like to get away from their husband sometime when they're at home, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what Judy has to post. I know she's got something to say.
I mean, or people like to get away from other people at their place, and it's just look.
Well, that's the biggest thing about the whole COVID thing was like everybody was afraid that they were going to get next to somebody that was going to kill them. So they just ran.
Judy just posted. My wife likes to get away from me a lot. Like Judy said, "Oh my, come on, women want to get away also." Absolutely, right?
Absolutely. It's like nobody. I mean, I don't know a mother that's got 4-year-old or 2-year-old at home is thrilled to be there all day long. They're ready to get out and go get something. Just go to lunch or go shopping or tell their husband, let's swap jobs for a day or two. Let you stay home with the kids and let me go sit there and answer the phone and talk about stocks for a while.
Well, but think about it. You're right in Another Dimension. You wrap it up pretty well. World gets a whole bunch of. We printed more cash in the last 2 years than we've printed in a long time. It gets flooded into the market. I think housing was ready to tip anyway, and I think we did move some stuff. Repair and remodel blows out. Now we're kind of, like I said, reverting from the hangover. I don't know what the unknowns are, but the point is, I think somebody at the price of lumber and now getting back to work, there may be a little bit less demand on that side. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How many decks could you build? How many swing sets could you build or fences you could put up? And people the mask mandate's gone. When you got the New York City schools, the Chicago City schools said you don't have to have a mask anymore. Google's telling everybody, all right, get off the couch and come back to work. Thousands and thousands of people are going to be back on the job. But people are realizing, I think, especially with what's going on in Ukraine and not whether it's a likelihood or possibility or whatever, but you got in the back of your mind, you got a man that, whatever his motivation is probably sitting there waiting to lean on the button that's going to blow up, annihilate the planet, and we're closer to annihilation and Armageddon than we've ever been before, and that's a fact. That's just a reality, and I think we're going to have a summer where people are going to want to spend more time with their families, we'll spend more time introspectively, and go like, I do not need to go out and sell my $800,000 house and buy a $1.7 million house just because I can, just because the interest rates let me do it or my payments fit. And I just think we're in for the overlooked obvious. I think we have right here is consumer sentiment is going to shift, and people are just going to stop being so gluttonous, selfishly trying to appease themselves to get whatever we want, and snap into reality. Go like, well, where I am is not so bad. Yeah. I'm thankful for what I have. And if you think about what made the market turn last year, think about what it was like. Look at the FTP graph. You see when the market peaked at about week number 20 last year. If you remember what week number 18 was like, it was just like this. You can't get enough lumber. There's not enough supply. Transportation's all screwed up. The cars are messed up. The trucks are messed up. The supply chain's all disrupted. I can't get enough to buy it. The builders are saying, whatever you do, don't leave run out of lumber. 3 weeks later, you couldn't find anybody who wanted to buy a stick of lumber. And the market fell $1,000 in like 5 weeks, whatever it was. And that was just a short-term consumer sentiment shift to go, that's enough. I'm just going to take a breather. And now we've got interest rates that are doubled. You got inflation at 7%. You got a war going on that's threatening the world. You got economic uncertainty. There's whole lot of different scenarios to make you say, just wait a damn minute. I'm just gonna,
Wait, so government inflation says 7%. What's the real inflation rate, right?
I just took my grandson to lunch. We had 2 cheeseburgers, 1 fry, and two chocolate milkshakes. $33. And I thought, you got to be kidding me! How you got the nerve to even tell me that's the number?
Yeah, it's crazy. I want to talk a little bit about the market conditions. I read that twice because we had a good call with some people yesterday. Greg, Matt, and we were talking about and Russ was on Taylor. We talked about the global market condition, right? And I was reading in here. We were talking about getting more. Look at why are we having the same problem with supply chain? You put the Great Supply Chain Reset on here, right? That's what your quote was. So what we talked about, Greg talked about, why do these rail cars that always have this problem this time of the year consistently happen, and these quarter over quarter tens, hundreds of millions of dollar profit the railroads are making, why can't they remedy it? And what we've kind of drilled down to is, a labor issue, right? So it seems like it's hard to get people to move the cars, right? It's hard to get labor anywhere to move things. And that seems to be what say you on that in your market condition, Mark? There.
Well, the first thing I want to say is I didn't write that. That was done by my new associate editor, Jerica Harris, who's my stepdaughter.
Good job, Jerica. Right on.
So she can't be on the call today because she's got a school function with her daughter, and she's going to read it. But I want to give Jerica kudos for passing herself off as me. So good for her.
You did a good job on it.
Thank you. I hope she'll see it. But a lot of the things going on with the rail car shortage is the streamlined, speedy method of doing business from, I forgot the guy's name that did all the railroad transformation kind of thing, but his whole plan and idea was to have longer, faster trains with fewer people, and that worked out fine for a while, but it doesn't work in the winter. But you get slower trains that are shorter in the winter, and that's typically in Canada, right at the border, but it's not all across the country. It's not everywhere. It's not in the South. And that problem always goes away around the end of March. It's a real legitimate problem until the weather gets nice and the trains get longer and the trains get faster. You don't need as many people. Trucks are going to be a little bit different. But the thing that made me change about trucking, you start paying these guys $5 a mile instead of $1 a mile, you're going to find a lot of folks willing to drive a truck again. So I think we just got a whole combination of problems that are going to get resolved or just not be as tense. But the biggest thing I got to go back to is consumer sentiment. I just going to say, but I found myself, I drove away to the gas pump yesterday because my car uses like a premium gasoline, and it was $5.05. And I said, I ain't paying you $5 a gallon for gas. So I went down the road and paid $4.55 instead. So that's a big savings. But you just find yourself not doing things because of the price of, if I'm not going to eat out as much, I'm not going to drive as far, I'm going to be shopping for a little better gas prices. I'll be thinking twice about a $33 lunch for a hamburger. And that's just going to filter down. Everybody doesn't need another wheelbarrow or to get their nails done or hair done every 4 weeks instead of 6 weeks, or new clothes or new pair of shoes, or just all the stuff that's clogged up at the ports. We really don't need. It's just wants that are backed up.
Another thing that works good, Matt, is a smaller garden hose in your neighbor's gas tank into yours.
You siphon it out, Seth? Yeah.
it's a small price.
Yeah, there may be a rise in garden hose sales because you got to go to the further neighbor's house to fill your tank up.
No doubt about that. Let's shoot down to your 2x4 number 2 composite and talk about the market. So we all know how the market's been crazy in logistics and shipping. But I will tell you, since we've been talking, this thing ran a lot harder than I thought it would. Last 2 weeks, you were kind of saying that we may be tipping a little bit in the next few weeks here. Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I think we've got the momentum of the market right now is clearly slowing, and the people that are talking the market up I talk about this talking positions all the time, but you can look at people say, well, I'm not seeing a whole bunch of lumber, well, but they're not seeing a bunch of lumber, but they are seeing more lumber. Brokers got a little more urgency cars, and cars are still shipping 2 weeks and 3 weeks. And I saw even see some 12-week late shipments, but there's all extenuating circumstances. But the biggest problem I think the market has right now with shipment is people for the last 2 months have allowed mills to sell them for 2 or 3 weeks shipment and saying they're going to be 2 or 3 weeks late, and with no guarantee that you can no recourse on price. You're begging for a situation where you're going to get shipped around, and I know that's going to happen. It is happening. You're going to see a bunch of contract trucks and cars. They're all of a sudden the market gets a little toppy. They're going to suddenly find cars and trucks. Your stuff's going to start shipping. You're going to get loaded up. The market's going to be overbought, just suddenly overbought, oversupplied. Consumers are going to be taking a breath. The builders are going to be trying to concentrate on completions rather than starts, and we're going to see, just like we did last year, we're going to see $1,000 collapse.
So Glenn put something out. Glenn, I hope I get your name right. Glenn Daigle, Daigle. I said Canfor had offered a list yesterday. It was for March 28th shipment. Same list today for prompt ship. What does that tell you? Right? And,
They're lying.
And Judy said that it's a 1 week. That makes sense. It's 1 week earlier. So, but my point is, I guess, did the prices change? Are they open to negotiation now? If anybody knows that, let me know on that one to see.
I saw one yesterday, a West Fraser list. It was the same list from Friday. It was $10 cheaper.
Okay. All right, that's good information. So, anything else we should look at on the colors here, Matt? What say you going into the next week between?
Well, I think if you look on you don't have this one, but the one from the forecast for the weekend shows that southern pine's due to peak this week. Spruce is due to peak next week, and then dry fir is going to be green and dry fir the couple of weeks after that. And it's a little bit inverted. Normally spruce peaks first because of the transit time, but pine's going to peak first this year, I believe, because the treaters are having a less robust year than they have because the home centers are taking on less wood, and I think the treaters are done for the season. They're not coming back to buy anymore, and pine's going to peak, and it's going to allow the truss plants to catch up. It's just we're going to see a cycle where pine goes first, then spruce, then dry fir. And that's going to be the reason that's going to happen is because spruce has no order file. They've been selling for a 3-week shipment, and for wood on the ground for the last 3 weeks. As soon as they can get cars or trucks, that stuff's going to start coming at you. So mills don't have an order file anywhere. It's a shipment file, not an order file. And just don't be surprised when it starts coming at you. It always does. The order files the shipment files get going quickly when all of a sudden the market peaks.
Now, the one good thing is talking to some of the buyers in Texas and in Florida, the outtake has been pretty darn good too, right? So they're moving some stuff. But I think people, as Riley kind of said the other day, we're kind of in that situation. Maybe we were beginning of last year. Nobody wanted to run out of lumber, and they probably bought that little bit of extra topper inventory that when it shows up all at once, it'll probably get them pretty good or get them in good shape.
Well, it shows, as it shows up for the dealer who's got double bought, it's also showing up on the job site they've got the sticks on the jobs to get their framing done. So they're going to be nailing stuff up, not ordering more. So it's the cycle. It just hits all at the same time when everybody gets overloaded, and it doesn't mean that business is bad. I keep saying that over and over. It's just the cycle of being caught up and getting flush and giving the market a chance to breathe. And the mills aren't going to take a breather from production.
Hey,
and once
Matt, these people are making the most money they've ever made converting logs into lumber, even at the high log costs right here. And even with all the issues, they're going in economics 101. I know people have told me this is wrong this time. You'll see more mills opening up more production because if you're a business and you're making this return to shareholders, you want to make as much as you possibly can and get it shipped when you can.
And look, there's a comment that Judy made about keep in mind that West Fraser's down 3 days at all BC mills. Well, they just went down last week, Judy, and they talked about it for 3 weeks before they did it. But they can come, but they can come back as quickly as they went down. Those people are not laid out of work; they're coming back to work. And as soon as that stuff starts to move out the front gate, they're going to come back and start blowing it out the door again. At $1,500 a thousand, they don't want to be down any more than they have to. So their reason for being down is just because they don't have place to store extra wood. Their yard's full. It's not that they don't want to make it or not making money. It's just they're just jammed up.
So the flip side of that, Matt, I talked to a friend of mine the other day that moves a lot to home centers, and he was saying the home center business is like straight out, right? Just they can't ship them enough wood right now. That and some good feedback of how much business the home centers picked up over the last 2 years. The reason being is a lot of these home centers, they picked up a lot of the pro builders because they didn't follow the market up as fast as some of the other yards that track the center, right? So they're blowing and going right now. So they're moving stuff out.
Well, they're also begging for their VMI programs to get ramped up. They want the mills to put more wood on in the warehouses, their reloads, to have it available. They're assuming also that there's not going to be any change in retail or consumer sentiment. They think it's going to just keep blowing and going. And what they're asking the mills to do is take some more risk, put some more lumber out here, the monkey's on you. And if we don't take it, you still got to sit in there. They don't have to pay for it. They just want to have more available just in case. But it doesn't mean that because the home centers are begging for more lumber, it doesn't necessarily mean that the home centers are shipping more lumber. They just want their VMI inventories to be bigger.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, I think the summary from the last few weeks is everybody's trying to get what they bought already, get it shipped to them. People are trying to book trucks. I think Riley was telling me the other day that you have to pay more, but he's getting trucks moved now, right?
Absolutely.
And
I heard somebody say yesterday they're talking about like rates are $3 to $5 a mile. They've been $5 a mile in the southeast for 6 months. Nobody's been. You can't move a truck for $3 a mile. $3 a mile unless you're doing a long haul through a easy to move corridor.
Yeah, no doubt about that. So look, it was a good show today. We got up in 20 minutes. Anything that you want to wrap it up with, Matt?
Yeah, run from futures. If you have any intentions of trading futures, just remember the limits are $57 and $86. In 2 days, futures had $143 range of volatility, and the market didn't move $10. So it's like the CME is trying to. It's almost like they're trying to get rid of the contract, but it's just so volatile. And if you're not good at it, you don't know what you're doing. Even if you do, you can be prepared for those days when you can see an $18,000 swing in a contract in just 2 days is just insanity. So my recommendation for futures is leave it to somebody else who got deeper pockets or less brains than you do and let them have it.
So Matt, thanks. If you want to sign up for Layman's Lumber Guide, we'll throw up his email where you can sign up. Great report. Matt sends it out a few times a week. Plus, he's got a bunch of good groups of users that he does focus groups. I guess I could say, Matt, in a way, or your insider groups that you talk about a lot of stuff. And
we're getting ready to start something new called the Inner Circle. And what I realized is the classes that I did last year, I call them the Lumber PhD classes. What I did was armed everybody with enough information to go out and be dangerous, but didn't really spend enough time on the execution and going through the market cycles. So we're going to take a class for an entire year and expose everybody to the entire cycles and have the several fundamental concepts that we use to analyze the market and see how it impacts the market on different cycles and different waves. And that's going to be a year-long thing. It's going to be available only to members, and we're going to take about 30 people in the group is all. So if you guys are interested, I'd encourage you to sign up for the free 2-month trial so you get an opportunity to participate in that.
And if you like what Matt and I do, the way you can support us is one, sign up for Matt Layman's Guide, but secondly, you can sign up for Materials Exchange, mxlumber.com. The way that we survive as a company is users using us. We just added a large mill that we will be putting on next week. So anybody that wants to get closer to the supply side, get on and mxlumber.com. There's no cost to be on. We're going to roll out with our Southern Yellow Pine Mill Appreciation deal that I'm putting together right now to get the Southern Yellow Pine producers on. We think it's a good opportunity. Instead of people coming to mills telling them what they got to give them in order to do business with them, we think mills should have an opportunity to get some on the other side to have a value to go sell to people, if that makes sense. So
Ash, what species is that group meal you're bringing on next week going to be? What are they going to offer?
it's going to be U.S. species, and it's going to be a bunch of them, right? So it'll be rail car and truckload. So anybody that's not on the platform and wants to get on, please get on. mxlumber.com. Register, sign up, and we'll get you in our queue to get going and get signed up and going.
You're growing. Good job.
Yes, that's the whole point of a startup, grow or die, right? And
That's it.
I think
Yeah,
we're doing a great job. We had our best quarter. Revenue looks good. Everything is up and to the right. I'll go like this if it's reversed on some people's screens, but it's going the right direction.
That's good.
All right, everybody, thank you, Matt, and thanks for all the support that you've done for us. A lot of your users get on after every one of these calls, and hopefully we're doing a good job for them also.
I think you are. Yeah, I would hear about it if you weren't, so that's good.
Appreciate it. All right, everybody have a good day. We'll look forward.
Thank you all for coming.
Thank you.